The distant hum of the ship's engines was the only sound in the cramped medical bay as Alex Mercer stared at the unconscious figure on the examination table. Her skin glimmered with an iridescent blue sheen that pulsed faintly with each labored breath. Definitely not human. Yet there was something hauntingly beautiful about her. The delicate features of her face, the way her silver-white hair seemed to float as if underwater. Alex's heart raced as he fumbled through the unfamiliar medical equipment he'd found in the crashed vessel. He was just a park ranger who happened to be in the wrong place at the right time. "Come on," he whispered, his breath fogging in the frigid air of the damaged spacecraft. "Don't die on me now." 48 hours earlier, Alex had been tracking unusual seismic activity in the remote wilderness of the Cascade Mountains. What he thought would be a routine investigation of potential volcanic disturbances turned into the discovery of a lifetime when he spotted the scorched trail through the ancient forest, leading to a clearing where something massive had impacted. Not a meteor, a ship. And inside, a single occupant, critically injured and barely alive. The alien woman stirred slightly as Alex carefully applied a strange gel-like substance to the worst of her wounds. He'd found it in a compartment marked with what he assumed was the universal symbol for medical aid, a spiral with 3 intersecting lines. A wild guess, but what other choice did he have? The nearest hospital was hours away, and somehow he knew ordinary human medicine wouldn't help her. "That's it. Stay with me," he encouraged, though he doubted she could understand him. Her eyelids fluttered, revealing eyes with vertical pupils like a cat's, set against irises the color of amethysts. For just a moment, they focused on his face with startling clarity before closing again. The storm outside was getting worse. Radio contact had been impossible since he'd found her, and the heavy snow meant no chance of hiking out until it cleared. Alex had made the decision to stay, to try to save her, without fully understanding what he was getting himself into. He'd always prided himself on doing the right thing, on helping others. Human decency didn't stop at the boundary of species, did it? Be morning of the second day, the alien woman's condition had stabilized. Alex had barely slept, constantly checking her vitals using a device he'd figured out through trial and error. It displayed shifting patterns of light that seemed to indicate her life force was strengthening. Relief washed over him as he heated up the last of his emergency rations. Whatever happened next, at least she wasn't going to die on his watch. The crash of metal behind him made Alex spin around. She was standing, wobbling, but upright, her 7-foot frame towering over his 6-foot one. Her eyes locked with his, and then she spoke, not in any language he recognized, but somehow, impossibly, he understood her. "You have saved me," she said, her voice melodic yet strained. "Why?" Alex shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. "It was the right thing to do. You needed help. I couldn't just leave you." Her expression shifted in a way that seemed almost sorrowful. "Then you have invoked the right of salvage. By the laws of my people, we are now bound." "Bound?" Alex's brow furrowed. "I don't understand." The alien woman touched a symbol on her wrist, and a holographic display appeared between them, showing intricate text that rearranged itself into English before his eyes. Alex read the first line and felt the blood drain from his face. According to Salaxian law, any being who saves the life of another is entitled to claim responsibility for that life. Permanently. Through marriage. There must be some mistake. Alex stammered, backing up until he hit the curved wall of the ship. "I was just trying to help. I didn't know about any right or law." "Ignorance of law does not negate its power," she replied, her voice gaining strength. "I am Lyra of House Terrace, first daughter of the High Council. My rescue," she paused, searching for the right words, "complicates matters beyond what you can comprehend." Outside, the snow had stopped. In the sudden quiet, a new sound became audible, the distant but unmistakable whir of approaching aircraft. Not rescue helicopters, something else entirely. "They're coming," Lyra said, her voice now urgent. "They know I survived. And now, they will know about you. Who's coming? Alex asked, though a sinking feeling told him he already knew the answer. Whoever had caused Lyra's ship to crash in the first place. Lyra's expression hardened as she reached out and gripped his arm with surprising strength. You have two choices, human. Accept the bond and claim the protections it offers under interstellar law, or face what comes alone. Her purple eyes searched his face. Choose quickly. We have very little time. The sound of the aircraft grew louder, and through the damaged viewport, Alex caught sight of sleek, dark shapes descending through the clouds. They looked nothing like any human technology he'd ever seen. And in that moment, standing in a crashed alien ship beside a woman from the stars he'd saved on pure instinct, Alex Mercer realized his simple act of compassion had just catapulted him into something far greater than himself. A cosmic drama where the next decision he made might not just change his life, but potentially the fate of two worlds. The question hung in the air between them as the alien ships drew closer. What would Alex choose? Time seemed to slow as Alex weighed his options. The approaching ships were now close enough that he could make out strange, angular markings along their hulls, symbols similar to those on Lyra's vessel, but somehow more aggressive in their geometry. I need to know what I'm getting into, Alex said, his voice steadier than he felt. Who are they? What do they want with you? Lyra's gaze darted to the viewport, calculation evident in her otherworldly eyes. My people, the Xalaxians, are in the midst of a civil conflict. Was to be bonded to Lord Commander Vex of the militant faction in what you would call a political marriage. My escape was not sanctioned. A runaway bride. Space politics. Interstellar arranged marriages. Alex's mind reeled as he tried to process it all. The closest thing he'd experienced to political intrigue was serving on his small town's waters committee. So those ships are Lord Commander Vex's retrieval squad, Lyra confirmed, moving with surprising agility toward the ship's control panel. Her long fingers danced across symbols that pulsed with light at her touch. They will take me back by force. And you, they will consider you an obstacle to be removed. The word removed hung in the air between them with chilling finality. Alex's ranger training kicked in. Assess the situation, identify options, make a plan. Except nothing in his wilderness survival courses had covered alien pursuers or interstellar marriages of convenience. If I accept this bond, Alex asked carefully, what exactly does that mean? For both of us, Lyra's movements paused, and something like surprise flickered across her features. You would consider it? True lie. I'm considering staying alive, Alex clarified, though even as he said it, he realized there was more to his hesitation than simple self-preservation. Something about Lyra, her courage, her determination, stirred something in him. And helping you stay that way too. For the first time, Lyra's lips curved in what might have been a smile. The bond is complex. By saving my life, you have already initiated the first stage. To complete it would require a formal declaration before witnesses and the exchange of life markers. Life markers. Lyra touched a spot at the base of her throat where a small luminescent crystal was embedded in her skin. A piece of oneself, given freely. It binds our life forces. In the ancient days, it prevented those who saved warriors in battle from later betraying them. Now it is largely ceremonial, but the law remains. Outside, the alien ships had begun to circle the crash site. A piercing beam of light swept across the damaged hull. Scanning. They've found us, Lyra said, her voice tight. The diplomatic protection of a bonding would force Vex to bring his case before the High Council rather than simply reclaiming me. It would buy us time. Time for what? Alex asked, the gravity of the situation sinking in further. Time to reach the embassy on your planet and seek proper asylum, Lyra replied. Your world is neutral territory in our conflict, designated for first contact preparation. Vex cannot operate openly here without risking interplanetary sanctions. Earth had an alien embassy, Somehow, of all the revelations in the past 48 hours, this one hit Alex the hardest. How many other secrets were hidden from ordinary people like him? A metallic groan echoed through the ship as something latched onto the outer hull. They were out of time. "I'll do it," Alex said, the words tumbling out before he could second-guess himself. "What do I need to say?" Relief washed over Lyra's face as she grasped his hands in hers. Her skin was cooler than a human's, but not unpleasantly so. "Repeat after me. I claim the right of salvage, life bound to life, path bound to path." Alex repeated the phrase, feeling the strange resonance in the air as he spoke the words. Lyra then spoke similar words in her language, the syllables flowing like water. "Now we must exchange life markers," she said, reaching up to her throat. With a small wince, she extracted the crystal, leaving a tiny droplet of iridescent blue where it had been. She took Alex's hand and pressed the warm crystal into his palm. "Your turn. I don't have anything of yourself freely given will suffice," Lyra explained quickly. "Hair, blood, even a treasured possession that holds your essence." Alex's hand went to the silver pendant around his neck, a compass that had belonged to his grandfather, the man who had first taught him to respect the wilderness and all living things within it. It wasn't part of his body, but it had been with him through every important moment of his adult life. It felt right. He slipped the chain over his head and placed it in Lyra's outstretched hand. "This was my grandfather's. He was the one who taught me to help others, no matter who they are." Lyra's fingers closed around the compass, and for a moment, the crystal in Alex's hand pulsed in sync with a light that seemed to emanate from beneath Lyra's skin. "It is done," she whispered. "Before the laws of my people, we are now bonded." A thunderous bang reverberated through the ship as the outer airlock was forced open. Shouted commands in an alien language echoed down the corridor. "What now?" Alex asked, tucking the crystal into his pocket. Lyra's expression hardened with newfound determination. "Now, husband, we run." She moved to a panel on the wall and pressed a sequence of symbols. A hidden door slid open, revealing a narrow passage. "The emergency evacuation tube. It will take us out through the underside of the ship." Alex nodded, the surreal nature of his situation hitting him once again. An hour ago, he had been a single park ranger with a simple life. Now he was married to an alien princess, running from her jilted political suitor, with a crystal containing her life essence in his pocket. As they slipped into the narrow passage, the sound of armored footsteps grew closer. The tube was dark, lit only by faint bioluminescent strips along the floor. Lyra led the way, her taller frame hunched in the confined space. "The embassy," Alex whispered as they crawled forward. "Where exactly is it?" Lyra glanced back, her eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. "In your nation's capital, hidden in plain sight for nearly 30 years, disguised as a private research foundation. Washington, D.C. That's over 2,000 miles from here. Then we have a long journey ahead of us," Lyra replied grimly. "And they will be hunting us every step of the way." Behind them, angry shouts erupted as their absence was discovered. A series of sharp commands followed, and the ship trembled as equipment was moved. "They're scanning for life signs," Lyra explained, increasing her pace. "We must reach the forest before they pinpoint our location." As they neared the end of the evacuation tube, Alex was struck by the absolute insanity of what he had gotten himself into, and by the realization that, despite the danger, despite the impossible odds, he didn't regret his decision. Not yet, anyway. The tube ended in a small hatch that Lyra quickly decoded. Cold air rushed in as it opened, along with a cascade of snow. They were at the rear of the ship, partially buried in the drift that had accumulated during the storm. "Stay low and follow me," Alex whispered, his ranger instincts taking over. "I know these woods. There's an old fire lookout station about 3 miles east. We can regroup there." Lyra nodded, adjusting the torn fabric of her flight suit to better shield against the cold. As they prepared to make their dash into the trees, her hand found his in the darkness. "Thank you," she said softly, the words carrying more weight than their simplicity suggested. "For saving my life. For taking this risk." Alex squeezed her hand gently. "Let's make sure we both live long enough for me to say you're welcome." 3 days into their journey, Alex and Lyra had settled into an uneasy rhythm. They traveled by night, using back roads and wilderness trails, where Alex's knowledge gave them an advantage. By day, they sought shelter in abandoned structures or dense forest cover, sleeping in shifts. The alien pursuit had been relentless but not omnipotent. Lyra explained that Earth's diverse electromagnetic fields and dense population centers created noise that made tracking more difficult. "You know," Alex said as they huddled in the back of a long-abandoned hunting cabin, sharing the last of a protein bar he'd had in his emergency pack, "you still haven't told me much about yourself, beyond the whole princess fleeing an arranged marriage thing." Lyra looked up from the makeshift communication device she'd been assembling from parts salvaged from her crash suit and Alex's damaged satellite phone. Her silver-white hair was pulled back now, revealing more of her face's elegant structure. "What would you like to know, husband?" There was a hint of something like playfulness in the way she said the word, despite their dire circumstances. Alex felt his face warm. It was still strange to think of himself as married, especially to someone he'd only known for days. And an alien at that. Yet there was no denying the growing connection between them. Why was marrying this Vex guy so terrible that you risked crashing on an unfamiliar planet to avoid it? Lyra's hands went still. Lord Commander Vex is a brilliant military strategist and a powerful voice in the militant faction. He is also cruel, calculating, and utterly without empathy. Her voice dropped lower. During the border skirmishes with the Trilaxian hegemony, he ordered the destruction of an entire settlement just to eliminate a single resistance cell. 3,000 civilians. She stopped, emotion briefly overwhelming her. Alex reached out, placing his hand over hers. Her skin had a subtle pattern of raised lines like circuits that he hadn't noticed before. "My mother died in that attack," Lyra continued. "My father, the head counselor, refused to censure Vex due to his political influence. When Vex proposed an alliance through marriage, my father saw it as an opportunity to bring the militant faction back under council control. My feelings were irrelevant. So you ran." "I tried to oppose him legally first," Lyra clarified. "I gathered evidence of his war crimes to present to the Interstellar Tribunal. Someone betrayed me. My ship was sabotaged during my escape. The rest, as your people say, is history." The makeshift communicator in her hands gave a soft beep, and Lyra's expression shifted to one of focus. "I've made contact with an embassy operative," she said. "They're sending extraction coordinates, somewhere in a place called Denver." "That's still hundreds of miles away," Alex said, "but at least we're heading in the right direction." A distant sound made them both freeze, the distinctive whir of advanced propulsion systems. "Too close." "They've found us," Lyra whispered, hastily gathering their meager supplies. "We need to move. Now." They slipped out the back door of the cabin, just as a spotlight swept across the front clearing. The forest was their ally, thick pines providing cover as they ran deeper into the wilderness. Behind them, the crash of splintering wood signaled that Vex's soldiers had breached the cabin. Days turned into a week, and their journey took them through small towns where Alex's knowledge of human customs became invaluable. Lyra attracted curious stares with her unusual height and features, but Alex's quick thinking, a story about a foreign movie shooting nearby, and his friend being an actress still in partial makeup, deflected the worst of the suspicion. In a tiny Nebraska motel room, paid for with the last of Alex's emergency cash, they finally had a moment to breathe. Lyra stood by the window, peeking through the heavy curtains at the parking lot below. "The crystal," she said suddenly. "May I see it?" Alex pulled the alien life marker from his pocket. It pulsed with a gentle blue light that seemed stronger than before. "It's responding to your emotions," Lyra explained, taking it carefully in her palm. "To your life force. The longer you carry it, the more attuned it becomes." "And your compass?" Alex asked. Lyra pulled the silver compass from inside her adapted clothing. The needle, which should have pointed north, now swiveled gently to point directly at Alex, no matter which way she turned. "It guides me to you now," she said softly. An unintended but not unwelcome effect. Something shifted between them in that moment, a recognition that whatever had begun as necessity was evolving into something neither of them had anticipated. The moment broke when Lyra's communicator beeped again, more urgently this time. Her expression darkened as she read the message. "What is it?" Alex asked. "The embassy is compromised," she said, her voice tight. "Vex has operatives within the diplomatic corps. If we go there, we'll be walking into a trap." Alex ran a hand through his hair, exhaustion and frustration mounting. "So what now? We've been running for a week, we're almost out of money, and those ships keep finding us." Lyra's eyes met his, determination evident in their amethyst depths. "There is one option we haven't considered. We make the bonding truly official, not just by my people's laws, but by the interstellar accords." "And how would we do that?" "There's a subspace beacon in Denver, the extraction point. It's maintained by neutral observers from the Galactic Council. If we can reach it and register our bonding, it would be recognized across 17 star systems. Even Vex couldn't ignore that without risking war with multiple species." Alex considered this. "So we're still heading to Denver, just not to the embassy." "Yes, but Vex will expect this move. The beacon is likely being washed." "Then we need a diversion," Alex said, an idea forming. "And I think I know just the thing." The next day found them on a freight train heading west, huddled in an empty boxcar. It wasn't comfortable, but it was faster and less traceable than the buses they'd been using. As the landscape rolled by, Alex outlined his plan. "My buddy Tom from Ranger Training works at Rocky Mountain National Park. If we can get a message to him, he can help us create a false trail, make it look like we're heading for the Canadian border instead of Denver." Lyra nodded appreciatively. Misdirection, a classic strategy. Meanwhile, we slip into Denver through the southern approach. Less obvious. The plan was sound, but as they neared Colorado, the sense of being hunted intensified. Twice they spotted the sleek, dark ships passing overhead, and once, in a small town where they stopped for supplies. Alex was certain he saw men in dark suits with the same strange geometric symbols subtly emblazoned on their lapels. The crystal in Alex's pocket grew warmer, sometimes almost hot to the touch, as if responding to his increasing anxiety. Lyra explained that life markers could serve as warning systems, sensing danger to their bonded counterparts. Their final approach to Denver came on a rainy night. The city lights blurred through sheets of water that provided welcome additional cover. They had abandoned the freight trains for a series of short hitchhiked rides, careful never to stay with one driver too long. Alex's friend Tom had come through, reporting suspicious activity near the Canadian border that had drawn away at least some of their pursuers. "The beacon is housed in a research building downtown," Lyra said as they sheltered under an overpass, consulting a map she'd drawn from memory. "It's disguised as environmental monitoring equipment on the roof. We'll need to bypass security." Alex nodded, trying to project confidence he didn't entirely feel. They were so close now, just hours away from potential safety, and yet he'd never felt more exposed. "Once we register," he asked, "what happens next?" Lyra's expression softened slightly. "If all goes well, a diplomatic vessel will be dispatched. With our bonding officially recognized, I can claim political asylum for both of us on my homeworld or any neutral territory." "Both of us? You mean I'd have to leave Earth?" The question hung between them, loaded with implications neither had fully addressed during their desperate flight. Lyra looked away. "It would be advisable." Vex is not known for forgiveness or respecting boundaries. Even with the protection of the Accords, staying here would put both of us, at risk. Before Alex could respond, a familiar whirring sound cut through the patter of rain. Too close. Much too close. "They've found us," Lyra whispered, her eyes wide. Spotlights swept along the street just yards from their hiding place, illuminating the falling rain in an eerie column of light. 3 black vehicles turned the corner ahead, moving slowly, searching. The crystal in Alex's pocket was now almost painfully hot. Without thinking, he reached for Lyra's hand, finding the compass she still carried. The moment their hands connected, both life markers pulsed with synchronous light, soft, but potentially visible to advanced scanning technology. "We need to move," Alex said, pulling her deeper into the shadows. "But they're between us and the beacon." Lyra's expression was resolute as she gazed toward the distant skyscrapers of downtown Denver. "Then we find another way," she said. "Together." The rain intensified as they slipped from their hiding place, 2 figures moving through the darkness while alien ships circled overhead and ground teams closed in. The final confrontation was coming, unavoidable now, with the beacon their only hope for salvation. Just blocks away, yet separated by an enemy determined to reclaim what he believed was his. And through it all, the life markers pulsed in unison, a physical manifestation of a bond that had begun as mere legal protection, but was quickly becoming something far more powerful and far more threatening to Lord Commander Vex's plans than either of them yet realized. Rain pounded against their backs as Alex and Lyra darted between the shadows of Denver's urban landscape. The search vehicles had established a perimeter, methodically tightening their net around the downtown area. Each alleyway, each street crossing became a heart-stopping gamble. "This way," Alex whispered, pulling Lyra toward a service entrance of a large department store. His years hiking through wilderness had honed his ability to spot paths others might miss. The door was locked, but Lyra pressed her palm against the electronic keypad. A soft blue glow emanated from her fingertips, and the lock clicked open. "Convenient skill," Alex remarked as they slipped inside. "Basic field training for all diplomatic corps members," Lyra replied. "Though I never expected to use it while fleeing my own people." They moved through the darkened store, past mannequins whose shadowy forms seemed to watch their progress with blank, judgmental stares. Through the large front windows, they could see the black vehicles slowly cruising past, scanners sweeping the buildings. "We need to get to higher ground," Lyra said, checking her makeshift communicator. "The beacon signal is strongest from elevation." A service map on the wall showed a skybridge connecting to the neighboring office tower, one of Denver's tallest buildings. If they could cross it, they'd have a direct path to the roof where environmental monitoring equipment, and hopefully the disguised beacon, waited. As they approached the skybridge, Alex's crystal suddenly flared with heat. He gasped, clutching his pocket. "They're close," Lyra whispered, her own compass vibrating in her hand. The life markers sensed the danger. A crash from behind them confirmed her words, the service door being forced open. Shouted commands in an alien language echoed through the store's cavernous space. "Run." Alex grabbed Lyra's hand, and they sprinted across the skybridge, their footsteps thundering on the metal walkway. Behind them, 3 figures in sleek black armor appeared, weapons raised. A sizzling bolt of energy struck the wall beside them, leaving a scorched hole in the concrete. Alex ducked instinctively, pulling Lyra down with him as they crawled the final meters of the skybridge. "Non-lethal rounds," Lyra explained, breathing hard. "Vex wants me alive." "And me?" Alex asked, already knowing the answer. Lyra's expression was grim. "You're an obstacle. They won't be using non-lethal force on you." They burst through the door at the end of the skybridge into an empty office floor. Cubicles created a maze that provided momentary cover as they weaved toward the central elevator bank. Alex jabbed the up button repeatedly, willing the doors to open faster. Come on, he muttered. The skybridge door crashed open, The hunters had followed. There, a voice called out in accented English, "Surround and separate them." The elevator dinged, doors sliding open. Alex and Lyra tumbled inside, Lyra immediately pressing the button for the highest floor. As the doors began to close, a black armored arm thrust between them. Alex reacted instinctively, bringing his foot down hard on the arm. A howl of pain, and the arm withdrew, allowing the doors to finally close. "That won't hold them long," Lyra said, eyes fixed on the climbing floor numbers. "They'll override the system or use the other elevators." Alex leaned against the wall, catching his breath. "So what's the plan when we reach this beacon? What exactly do we do?" "We must both place our life markers into the transmission chamber. The beacon will scan them, verify the biological connection that's been forming, and transmit the registration across subspace to the Galactic Council archives." Lyra's voice softened. "Alex, once it's done, there's no going back. You'll be legally bound to me under laws older than your entire civilization." The gravity of what they were attempting settled on Alex's shoulders. A week ago, he'd been a park ranger whose biggest concern was tracking unusual seismic activity. Now he was about to register an interstellar marriage to save both their lives. "Will I ever be able to come back to Earth?" he asked quietly. Lyra's eyes met his, vulnerability evident in their depths. "Eventually, perhaps, but not until Vex is dealt with, and that could take time." The elevator slowed, approaching the top floor. Alex reached out and took Lyra's hand, feeling the strange, subtle texture of her skin against his. "I made my choice back in that ship," he said. "I'm not backing out now." Something shifted in Lyra's expression. Gratitude mixed with an emotion Alex couldn't quite name. Before she could respond, the elevator jerked to a halt between floors. "They've overridden the controls," Lyra said, immediately moving to the ceiling panel. "Help me up." Alex boosted her, and she pushed the panel aside, pulling herself into the elevator shaft. She reached down to help him up just as the elevator began to descend. With a desperate lunge, Alex grabbed her hand, and she pulled him into the darkness of the shaft with surprising strength. They climbed the maintenance ladder, the sounds of pursuit echoing below them. The roof access door was locked, but Lyra again used her abilities to bypass it. They emerged onto the rooftop, rain still falling steadily. The lights of Denver spread out around them like a glittering sea. There, Lyra pointed to a cluster of weather monitoring equipment and satellite dishes. "The beacon is disguised among those." They sprinted across the rain-slick roof, the crystal and compass growing warmer in their possession, as if eager to complete their purpose. Among the equipment, one satellite dish stood out, slightly more angular in design, with faint geometric patterns etched into its surface that matched the symbols on Lyra's ship. "How do we activate it?" Alex asked, scanning the equipment for anything resembling a control panel. Lyra placed her palm against the base of the dish. Lines of light spread from her touch, illuminating the hidden console. A small compartment opened, revealing a depression perfectly sized for the life markers. "Together," she said, removing the silver compass from around her neck. Alex took the crystal from his pocket, its blue glow pulsating in time with his rapid heartbeat. As they prepared to place the objects into the beacon, the rooftop door burst open. "Step away from the beacon," a commanding voice called out. A tall figure strode through the rain, flanked by 4 armed guards. Unlike the others, he wore no helmet, revealing aristocratic features that might have been handsome if not for the cold cruelty evident in his eyes. His uniform bore elaborate insignia that marked him as someone of high rank. "Lord Commander Vex," Lyra said, her voice steady despite the fear Alex could feel in her trembling hand. Vex approached slowly, his gaze moving between Lyra and Alex with calculated assessment. "First daughter Lyra, you've led me on quite a chase across this primitive world." His accent was more refined than his soldiers', his English flawless. "And this must be your salvage claim." He spat the words as if they tasted foul. "His name is Alex Mercer, Lyra said, chin raised in defiance. And our bonding is legitimate under both Salaxian law and the right of salvage. Vex's laugh was without humor, a technicality that will be quickly overturned once we return home. Your father has already agreed to annul this unfortunate misunderstanding. He extended a hand. Come now, Lyra. Enough of this foolishness. Your place is by my side, not with this earth creature who knows nothing of our ways. The guards had spread out, cutting off any escape route. The beacon sat just inches away, its receptacle open and waiting for the life markers. Alex could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him, heavier than the rain soaking through his clothes. She's not going anywhere with you, Alex said, stepping forward. She made her choice. I made mine. Vex's expression hardened, his hand moving to the weapon at his hip. You speak of choices. You understand nothing of galactic politics, human. This union would disrupt alliances carefully cultivated over centuries. Wars have been fought for less. And what about her choice? Alex persisted, anger giving him courage. Does that mean nothing in your advanced civilization? For a moment, something like doubt flickered across Vex's face, quickly replaced by cold determination. Choices must sometimes be sacrificed for the greater good. Lyra understands this, even if she temporarily forgot her duty. He turned to her. Your father is ill, Lyra. The stress of your disappearance has worsened his condition. He asks for you. Lyra faltered, her resolve visibly shaken. My father is ill. Critically so, Vex confirmed. Return with me now, and I give you my word you will see him before it's too late. Alex watched the conflict play across Lyra's face, duty to her family warring with her desire for freedom. The life markers in their hands pulsed more urgently now, as if sensing the pivotal moment. He's lying, Alex said softly, though doubt crept into his own mind. How could he, a human who'd known Lyra for barely a week, ask her to abandon her dying father? The rain fell harder as Lyra looked between Vex and Alex, between her past and a possible future. The compass in her hand trembled, its needle spinning wildly before settling again, pointing not at Alex this time, but at the beacon. I need to know the truth, she whispered, her decision crystallizing in her eyes as she turned toward Vex. And there's only one way to be certain. In one fluid motion, Lyra turned back toward Alex, her eyes communicating something Vex couldn't see. She placed her hand with the compass into Alex's free hand, closing his fingers around both life markers. Hold these, she whispered. Trust me. Before Alex could respond, Lyra stepped toward Vex, her posture submissive, defeated. You're right, Lord Commander. I've been foolish. My father needs me. Vex's expression shifted to one of smug satisfaction. He extended his hand toward her. A wise decision, first daughter. I only ask one thing, Lyra said, moving closer to him. Allow me to say goodbye to Alex properly. He saved my life, after all. He deserves that much respect under our laws, even you must acknowledge that. Vex hesitated, then nodded curtly. Make it quick. Lyra turned back to Alex, who stood frozen, both life markers clutched in his hand, confusion and betrayal warring in his eyes. She approached him slowly, placed her hands on his shoulders, and leaned in as if to embrace him. The moment I distract him, place the markers in the beacon, she breathed into his ear, her voice so soft it was barely audible over the rain. No matter what happens, don't hesitate. Before Alex could process her words, Lyra pulled back, meeting his eyes with an intensity that spoke volumes. Then she turned and walked toward Vex, her steps measured, deliberate. I'm ready to return home, she announced, standing before the Lord Commander. Vex's triumphant smile was cold as winter. Your father will be pleased to hear it. My father, Lyra repeated, her voice hardening. Tell me, Lord Commander, how exactly did his condition worsen so suddenly? A flicker of unease crossed Vex's features. The stress of your disappearance, as I said. Strange, Lyra replied, taking another step closer to him. Because my father has been in perfect health for decades. The cellular regeneration treaty with the Andorians saw to that. Vex's hand moved subtly toward his weapon. You've been away, Lyra. Things change. Yes, they do, Lyra agreed. Then, with a speed that caught everyone by surprise, she struck out, her hand connecting with the control panel on Vex's wrist gauntlet. Chaos erupted on the rooftop. The guards' weapons malfunctioned, emitting electrical feedback that caused them to drop the devices with cries of pain. Vex stumbled backward, his own systems temporarily disabled by Lyra's precise strike. Now, Alex, Lyra shouted, grappling with Vex to keep him off balance. Alex lunged for the beacon, the life markers burning hot in his palm. He slammed them into the twin depressions in the console. The moment they connected with the alien technology, a column of blue-white light erupted from the satellite dish, shooting straight up into the stormy sky. Vex roared with rage, throwing Lyra aside. She hit the ground hard, but immediately rolled to her feet, placing herself between the Lord Commander and Alex. "You've made a grave mistake," Vex snarled, drawing a secondary weapon from his boot, one unaffected by the system's disruption. "The beacon is transmitting," Lyra said, her voice steady despite the weapon aimed at her chest. "Our bonding is being registered with the Galactic Council as we speak. Not even you can interfere with that, Vex. The treaty is clear." The guards had recovered, surrounding them with weapons drawn. One of them spoke urgently to Vex in their native language, pointing to a display on his arm. Vex's expression contorted with fury. "Council ships," he spat, responding to the beacon activation. Alex moved to Lyra's side, taking her hand. The life markers in the beacon pulsed with increasingly bright light, the energy spreading through the satellite dish in intricate patterns. "It's done," Lyra said softly. "The registration is complete." Vex's face hardened into a mask of cold calculation. "So be it. The registration is meaningless if there are no survivors to claim its protection." He raised his weapon, aiming directly at Alex's heart. "The official report will state that you both perished in an unfortunate accident during retrieval." Time seemed to slow as Vex's finger tightened on the trigger. Alex tensed, preparing for impact, his only regret that he brought Lyra to this moment. The shot never came. A blinding light bathed the rooftop, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. When Alex could see again, a new figure stood between them and Vex. Tall, regal, wearing elaborate robes emblazoned with symbols that matched those on Lyra's ship, but more ornate. "Lord Commander Vex," the newcomer said, his voice carrying an authority that made even Vex lower his weapon slightly. "The Council does not look kindly on attempted execution of a registered bond pair, especially when one of them is the first daughter." "High Counselor Terrace," Vex acknowledged stiffly. "This is an internal Salaxian matter. My daughter's well-being is indeed my concern," the High Counselor agreed, his gaze moving to Lyra with evident relief. "As is the sanctity of the bonding laws that have governed our people for millennia." Lyra stepped forward, her composure remarkable given the circumstances. "Father, I can explain." "There is no need," the High Counselor interrupted gently. "The Council received your evidence against Lord Commander Vex. The data packet you transmitted before your ship was sabotaged reached us, though much later than you intended." Vex's face drained of color. "What evidence? What is he talking about, Lyra?" "The records of your war crimes," Lyra said quietly. "The orders you gave to destroy civilian settlements. The bribes you paid to cover it up. All of it, documented and verified by 3 independent sources." "Impossible," Vex whispered, but the defeat in his voice suggested otherwise. The High Counselor turned to his guards, not Vex's men, but new arrivals who must have transported down with him. "Take the Lord Commander into custody. He will face trial before the full council for his crimes." As Vex was led away, still protesting, the High Counselor approached Alex and Lyra. His expression was unreadable as he studied Alex, "So this is the human who saved my daughter," he said finally. Alex straightened, meeting the alien leader's gaze. "Yes, sir." To Alex's surprise, the High Counselor inclined his head in a gesture of respect. "Then our people owe you a debt of gratitude, Alex Mercer of Earth. Not only for Lyra's life, but for your part in bringing Vex's crimes to justice." The beacon suddenly flared brighter, the life markers rising from their receptacles, transformed. The crystal and compass floated in the air between Alex and Lyra, no longer separate objects but merged into a single, gently pulsing orb of light. "The convergence," the High Counselor murmured, genuine awe in his voice. "I haven't seen one in my lifetime." "What does it mean?" Alex asked, unable to look away from the beautiful, impossible light. "It means," Lyra explained, her eyes shining, "that our bond has been recognized at the deepest level. Not just legally, but," she struggled for the right words, "cosmically," the High Counselor supplied. "Such a bond cannot be broken, not by any power in the known galaxy. It is extremely rare, occurring perhaps once in a generation." The orb of light slowly descended, dividing once more into the crystal and compass, but changed now, each containing an essence of the other. Alex's crystal now had a small silver compass rose embedded within its blue depths, while Lyra's compass contained a shard of crystal at its center, guiding the needle. "The Council ship awaits," the High Counselor said. "We should depart before local authorities investigate the disturbance." Lyra took Alex's hand, the life markers warm between their palms. "This changes things," she said softly. "With a convergence bond, you would be granted full citizenship rights among my people, a diplomatic position, if you wished it." She hesitated. "But your home is here. I understand if—" "Actually," Alex interrupted, a slow smile spreading across his face, "I've been thinking about a career change. Ranger work is great, but interstellar diplomat has a nice ring to it." He glanced at the High Counselor, assuming Earth would be included in these diplomatic relations. The High Counselor's expression softened. "We have been monitoring your planet for some time, preparing for first contact. Perhaps this unusual circumstance provides the perfect opportunity to accelerate that timeline." As they prepared to depart, Alex took one last look at the Denver skyline. The city lights blurred through the rain. Earth, his home, his whole world until a week ago. Now just one planet among many he would come to know. "Reedy?" Lyra asked, squeezing his hand. "Almost," Alex replied. He pulled her close, and for the first time, kissed her, not out of obligation or protocol, but from a connection that had grown from desperate circumstances into something neither of them had expected to find. When they parted, the life markers pulsed in perfect synchronization, casting their mingled light across the rain-soaked rooftop. "Now I'm ready," Alex said. The transport beam enveloped them in gentle light, lifting them toward the Council ship waiting beyond Earth's atmosphere. As Denver faded from view, replaced by the vast starscape above, Alex felt not loss but anticipation. His life had been forever changed when he'd followed that crash site into the forest, when he'd made the choice to save a dying alien woman. It was only later, as their ship prepared to enter faster-than-light travel, that Lyra approached him with a strange expression. "There's something you should know," she said, her voice carrying an odd note Alex couldn't quite place. "Something about the right of salvage that I didn't fully explain before." "What is it?" Alex asked, suddenly wary. Lyra took a deep breath. "The life markers, the convergence, they're not just symbolic. They create a literal biological connection between bondmates." She placed her hand over her abdomen. "Among my people, this often leads to compatibility that would otherwise be impossible between different species." Alex's eyes widened as comprehension dawned. "Are you saying—" "The medical bay confirmed it this morning," Lyra said, a mixture of anxiety and wonder in her voice. "It seems our cosmic bond has already created something new, something unprecedented." As the stars stretched into streaks of light around them, Alex realized that his journey, their journey, was only just beginning. Alex stood frozen, his mind struggling to process Lyra's words. A baby. Their baby. Something that should have been biologically impossible. How? He finally managed, his voice barely above a whisper. Lyra guided him to a viewport where the vastness of space stretched before them, stars blurring as the ship accelerated. The life markers don't just connect us symbolically. They create a bridge between our genetic codes, finding compatibility where none should exist. Her hand remained protectively over her abdomen. The convergence is so rare partly because it requires genuine connection, not just survival or convenience. Alex's shock gradually transformed into wonder as the implications sank in. He placed his hand over Lyra's, feeling the warmth of the connection between them. I never imagined becoming a father, he said softly. Let alone to the first human Salaxian child in history. Are you upset? Lyra asked, uncertainty flickering across her features. Alex shook his head, a smile spreading across his face. Terrified. Yes. Overwhelmed. Absolutely. But upset. No. He squeezed her hand gently. We'll figure this out together, just like everything else since that day in the forest. The days that followed were a whirlwind of diplomatic meetings, medical examinations, and cultural orientations as Alex adjusted to life aboard the council ship. The High Counselor, who insisted Alex call him Theron rather than Sir or High Counselor, took a personal interest in Alex's education about Salaxian culture and politics. Your unique position offers an unprecedented opportunity, Theron explained as they walked through the ship's arboretum, a stunning garden designed to showcase plant life from various worlds. No human has ever experienced our civilization from the inside. Your perspective will be invaluable when formal relations with Earth begin. And when will that be? Alex asked, still marveling at flowers that seemed to sing softly as they passed. Sooner than originally planned, Theron admitted. Your bond with Lyra and the child you're expecting has accelerated the timeline considerably. The Council has voted to establish an official embassy on Earth within the year. Alex stopped before a pool of water where fish-like creatures with iridescent scales darted beneath the surface. Will I be able to visit home? To see my family and friends? Theron's expression softened. Of course. In fact, I was hoping you might serve as a liaison. You understand both worlds in ways no one else can. Later that evening, as Alex and Lyra shared a meal in their quarters, he broached the subject that had been weighing on his mind. How do I explain all this to my parents? He asked, gesturing around them. Their son disappears for weeks, then returns married to an alien diplomat and expecting a baby that shouldn't be possible. Lyra laughed, the sound like wind chimes in the cabin. Perhaps we start with the simpler parts, that you met someone while working, that things happened quickly, and that they're going to be grandparents. And the alien part. We'll have to cross that bridge eventually, Lyra conceded. The Council has protocols for integrating families of cross-cultural bonds. Your parents will be granted special clearance. She took his hand across the table. What we have is unprecedented, Alex, but that doesn't mean we're alone in figuring it out. 3 months later, the Council ship entered Earth orbit for the first official diplomatic contact between Salaxians and humans, while government representatives from major nations were briefed in a highly secure facility in Geneva. Alex and Lyra made a more personal journey. The small cabin in the Cascade Mountains looked exactly as Alex had left it months ago. His old pickup truck sat in the gravel driveway, dusty but untouched. As they approached the front door, Alex felt his heart hammering in his chest. They've been told I'm coming, he reminded himself aloud. And that I'm bringing someone important. Lyra squeezed his hand, her slight baby bump now visible beneath her adapted Earth clothing. They're your family, Alex. They love you. The door opened before he could knock, revealing his mother, her eyes wide, a mixture of joy and shock on her face as she took in the sight of her son, and the tall, unmistakably non-human woman beside him. "Alex," she breathed, pulling him into a fierce hug before stepping back to look at Lyra. "Mom," Alex said, his voice steady despite his nerves. "This is Lyra, my wife." What followed was perhaps the most surreal family dinner in human history. As they sat around the old oak table where Alex had eaten countless meals growing up, he watched his parents process everything. From the crash landing to the pursuit across the country, from the life markers to the impending grandchild. His father, typically stoic, asked dozens of technical questions about Selaxian technology, while his mother kept finding excuses to touch Lyra's hand, as if confirming she was real. "I always said you'd bring home someone special one day," his mother said finally, tears glistening in her eyes. "Though I admit, I didn't expect quite this special. Are you disappointed?" Alex asked quietly while Lyra was showing his father the compass life marker in the other room. His mother looked at him with surprise. "Disappointed? Alex, you found love across the stars. You're going to be a father to a child that represents the best of two worlds. And you're helping write the first chapter of humanity's place in a larger universe." She cupped his face in her hands. "I'm proud beyond words." 1 year later, on a warm summer evening, Alex stood on the porch of a new home, one specially built on the edge of the newly established diplomatic zone outside Seattle. The structure blended Earth architecture with subtle Selaxian design elements, a physical representation of the bridge their family had become. Inside, Lyra sang softly to their daughter, Nova, whose features carried hints of both her parents. Alex's dark hair and determined chin, Lyra's slightly iridescent skin, and striking violet eyes. At 4 months old, she was already showing signs of remarkable intelligence, and occasionally, abilities that reminded them of her unique heritage. Alex looked up at the stars becoming visible in the twilight sky. Somewhere up there, Vex was serving his sentence for war crimes. The militant faction had lost considerable influence after his fall, and the Selaxian Council was entering a new era of diplomatic relations rather than military posturing. And here on Earth, the news of alien contact had initially caused panic and confusion, but the carefully managed introduction, with Alex and Lyra's story at its center, had helped humanize the encounter. People could understand saving someone's life. They could understand falling in love. They could understand family. The screen door creaked as Lyra joined him on the porch, Nova sleeping peacefully in her arms. The life markers they wore, his crystal, her compass, pulsed with gentle light in the growing darkness. "Penny for your thoughts?" Lyra asked, using the Earth expression she'd grown fond of. "Just thinking about how different my life would be if I hadn't investigated that seismic disturbance," Alex replied, putting his arm around her shoulders. "If I hadn't found your ship, the Council would say it was cosmic alignment," Lyra suggested, "that some connections are written in the stars long before we understand them. And what do you say?" Alex asked, pressing a kiss to her temple. Lyra smiled, looking down at their daughter's peaceful face. "I say that sometimes the universe knows what we need before we do. And sometimes all it takes is one person willing to help a stranger to change everything." They stood together in comfortable silence as more stars appeared overhead. Not just distant lights now, but beacons of worlds to explore, cultures to understand, and a future neither of them could have imagined on their own. Nova stirred in her sleep, one tiny hand reaching up to grasp her father's finger. In that simple gesture was everything that mattered: connection, protection, love. The very things that had brought them together in a crashed ship in the forest, and the things that would guide them forward into their shared future among the stars. The life markers pulsed once more, as if in agreement, their light merging briefly before settling back into synchronized rhythm. Two separate hearts beating as one, across the cosmos and beyond.